Hey everyone, welcome back to the Career Matters podcast. This is your host Nisar Ahmed, and this is episode 101 of the Career Matters podcast. And this episode is part of the Recruiting Expert series. And if you have listened to any of the Recruiting Expert series episode, I bring in individuals who help essentially small businesses or hiring managers to ideas and insights on how they can attract better talent. But these interviews are also useful for the individual job seeker as well to know how the person on the other end, the hiring manager, thinks. So that's the reason the Recruitment Expert series was created within the podcast. And for today's Expert series episode, I am speaking with Liran Kotzer, CEO of Wooio. Wooio is WOO. And I will give you everyone a one-sentence description, but I'm excited to learn more about the company, and Liran will help us as well. It's essentially a smart recruiting startup. Wooio is using artificial intelligence to change the way recruitment and hiring is conducted in the tech world. As I mentioned, we will learn more as we go along with the interview. To tell us more about Wooio and about himself as well, hey Liran, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, welcome. Excited to join.
Before we get to know about the company and the whole industry and etc., could you tell us, myself and the audience, where you're calling from?
Yeah, I'm calling from Israel. I guess we are 9 hours time gap, right, between us?
Right. I'm based in Toronto, Canada. And right, I believe this might be the second time I'm interviewing someone from Israel. And I'm assuming you're based in Tel Aviv, right?
Yeah, in Israel, most of the people that working on startup, it's as you know, it's a very small country. I think in the size of Toronto. Mm-hmm. So most of the startups are basically located in Tel Aviv.
Awesome. And okay, for those of us who do not know much about Tel Aviv, can you share with us like a fun fact or an interesting fact about Tel Aviv that unless someone has visited, they would never know?
Yeah, so for those that are passionate about technology, there is a sentence says that you can step on entrepreneurs on the street when you're walking in Tel Aviv. Basically, it's a very, very, very interesting metropolis. We're in the Middle East from one hand, but from the other end, it's an exciting city with a lot of innovation, a lot of startups, a lot of new thing, great culture, and I think it's a must-have place to visit in everyone's checklist.
That's great to know. I mean, it's
especially, by the way, in this time of the year, it's like great because in Tel Aviv it's next to the sea, so there we have great beaches. So it's a great combination between science, innovation, and fun.
That's great to hear. And I'm listening. We had a chat before we started the podcast, you and I, where we were telling that you hear a lot about technology startups coming out of Israel, especially Tel Aviv, and it's good to know where. As a whole, there's a lot of opportunities for new companies, and many of them are disruptive, and that's exactly what your company does. So I would love to learn, before we go and learn about Wooio, could you tell us a little bit more about your story and why you ended up starting Wooio as a company?
Yeah, for sure. So my personal background, I'm a techie. I was trained and gained all my knowledge and experience in the Israeli army. Basically, it was a great opportunity to work on, some very super interesting project when it comes from technology aspects. And with that knowledge, after I left the army, I was involved in many startups. In most of them, I was part of the founding team. And one of the things that keep bothering me, I'm the part of the Israeli ecosystem, of the startup ecosystem. And I found out that there are so many people, friends, colleagues, that when you speak with them, you understand that they have a lot of ambitions and inspiration regarding what they want to do next in their career. People want to do changes, like want to move to new industries or work for a specific type of companies, or move from big companies to startups, or to doing relocation, or having better compensation or getting promoted. There are so many things that people want and, happy to share. But what I found out is that when it comes to reality, most of those people not going to do anything proactively in order to get their next thing. Like, if you think about it, this is part of the human nature. We are in many times we thinking and, want to do things to make our life better. But in most of the time, we just don't do it. It's right for, let's say, quick smoking or having a diet. And same for career. People not doing anything. And when we start investigating it and try to understand why people are not proactive when it comes to the most important thing or one of the most important thing in their life, which is their workspace, we figure out that today it's because it's so hard to do this, process of switching job, because you need to give up your basically security. You're becoming a job seeker, right? So everyone knows that now you're looking for a job, or you need to go to places that are very inefficient, like job boards, and apply, or speaking with recruiters in recruiting agencies. So people don't want to take either the risk or go through the hustle of finding a new job. And that was a mission that we said, if we can change the way people consume job and make, the experience of switching job much more easier and secure, we can help a lot of people that are comfortably numb or, let's say, stuck in their current workplace, and help them, push them to do changes that eventually will make their life better. So that's exactly why we built Wooio.
You brought up a great point, because you brought two great points. I was listening as you were saying, I was writing notes here. One is the last thing you said was, career or a job is a very important part of one individual's lives. It takes up a lot of time, but it's also how they define themselves. And, having the right career, right job can have a huge impact on their life and people around them, right?
Right.
Another thing you also mentioned is one of the most challenging things for most people is if they're not happy with where they are, it's very difficult to quit and start looking for a job, because it becomes much more difficult than when you have a job and you're looking. So that's always a trend that I've seen on both sides, like especially when you try to interview a candidate, even if they have legitimate reasons why they don't have a job, it just brings up some type of a stigma. Why is this person looking, type of thing. So
exactly. And I can give you some very interesting fact. Today when there was few researches, one of them made by LinkedIn, it's called the Annual Talent Trend Report. And you can see that they ask in a huge survey, they saw basically that 60% of the current employees that have jobs are ready to consider a better job for them and not doing anything in order to consider it. So it's a huge number, because basically it says that 60% of the people that have jobs want something or want any optimization or something better for them, but not going to do anything about it. And this is it's when you speaking about how hard is it for companies to find great talent, you can understand that one of the key problem is in that fact that a lot of talents that basically want to consider new job are not in the market right now.
Very interesting. So you're saying that, okay, what I'm hearing is anyone who has a job, that if you look at that bucket, that 60% of them are ready to consider, but they're not necessarily applying.
Exactly.
Very interesting. Exactly. That's a very interesting research. So on both, let me expand a little bit further here. So let's put the position of the employer. Let's say you're trying to grow your team or replace someone. What are some of the challenges, in your opinion, Liran, or experience that they see? What are some of the challenges employers or hiring managers face today?
Well, I think that's a great question. I think that the core problem is basically the inefficiency of the market, because when you try to find a new talent to work for your company, first, it's something very important. You cannot compromise regarding the quality or the skill set of the person that you're about to bring. But from the other end, it's like going to find the needle in the haystack, because today, you need to invest a lot of efforts in order to find the right match for you. For example, think about LinkedIn, right? So I don't know if you're familiar with the fact, but less than 10% of the people that you're about to approach in LinkedIn are going to respond to you. So think about the amount of efforts that employers need to invest in order to approach so many candidates, so until they will find the right one. Same for, by the way, job boards. If they will put a job post in a job board, they're going to get so many applicants, but only less than 3% are going to be relevant, meaning they're spending 97% of their time of screening irrelevant candidates. So that's create a very inefficient space where, both sides trying to spray and pray and find each other. But eventually that's not, if you look at the market from high level, it shouldn't be that way, right? Because for every position, there is a potential match, but there should be something in the middle that is very effective that can create those matches in a way that not require that time of filtering and screening irrelevant candidates from the employer side. So I think number one challenge today for employers is how they get the right talents, how they find them, how they make them, convince them to start the process of interviewing in the company. It takes, by the way, there is a number that says that it takes 27 hours of screening candidates in order to make one hire. That's a lot. Think about 27 hours of screening CVs in order to generate one hire. That's give you some good indication regarding the inefficiency of that market.
So let me just repeat that, because 27 hours is a lot of time to get one position filled, right?
A lot of time.
Wow. Look, that's actually true. And I've been on the other side where I have been in that position. And trust me, most hiring managers, this is not what they do. They are sales managers, they're marketing managers, they're developer, IT managers, they're technical managers. Hiring is not something they also enjoy, in my experience. Do you find that true as well? Because that's not their skill set. Their skill set is whatever their core competency is.
Well, I think that, especially today, hiring managers understand that hiring is the most important task in their job, right? They need to bring the right people to do the job. I agree they don't like the process because I don't think they don't like it because for them, the process is so inefficient and they're getting from their HR department so many candidates that in most of the cases they're going to turn down. So for them, it's becoming more frustrating, although they understand that this is a very important mission in their job, right? And that's why, by the way, you see today a lot of hiring managers that are very open to adopt new technologies. And even in some cases, they force their HR division to be more innovative and open-minded in order to try and test new tools, because they understand that eventually it's going to affect their performance. So from one end, yeah, I agree. It's not something that they enjoy to do, but they understand the importance of it. But from the other end, I think that they're more open in order to test and adopt new technologies that will make this process more efficient for them.
Okay. That's great to hear. So I wanted to switch gears now on the other side, where let's say you are a candidate. What are some of the challenges in your experience candidates face today?
Well, I think that, and that's exactly what we're trying to solve. The problem with candidates is I'm split it to two problems. One is that candidates today don't know their market value they don't have an agent that, can tell you, okay, I can ask you, hey, I want to relocate to Boston and work as a CTO and earn 150 annual salary. Is it something that I can do? Is there someone that wants me for that type of position? So there are no easy answers for questions that, people need in order to be able to think about their next move. So it's put them in the confidence regarding their ability to get what they truly want, they're less confident. So that's one thing. That's one problem. We don't know our true options in the market. The second thing is that I think there is unfair advantage when it comes to, employers versus employees. So, when employers decide that they want to fire someone or basically say goodbye to an employee, that's a very easy move for employer side, right? They know how to do it. It's becoming very quickly. But on the other side, if employee want to switch a job, that's a very difficult mission because they're taking risk and, they need to put all the efforts and they have their job. So it's like unfair game. And this is the balance that we want to change. We want to give more power basically to the employee side. So whenever they decide that, it's the right time for them to start thinking or maybe going for the next thing, it will become very easy for them. And they will not get stuck in their job just because today there is no good way or easy way or secure way to switch between jobs.
No, that is true. That is true. And I've been a candidate on myself, and I've experienced the same challenge as well. So now let's tie this all together, right? So tell us how Woo helps solve this problem. And you are an AI solution, which is, so if you can tell us how all this ties together, how we solve the inefficiencies for both the candidate and the employer.
Sure. So basically when we built Woo, we started thinking first about, the candidates and how we can solve things as part of the pain that I spoke about. So what Woo basically offer you is a very simple thing. We offer you an agent style experience where in Woo you can discreetly start getting opportunities from companies that you qualified for their opportunities that are based on the things that you truly want when you're thinking about your next thing. So when you get into Woo, you can easily, we know everything about you when you onboard. It's a very simple onboarding, but nobody knows that you are in Woo. And the next thing that we're doing together is setting up the things that you would consider as interesting opportunity for you. And when I say we help you to setting up, it's because we use our technology in order to show you your real demand and help you to navigate and understand what you can ask when you're thinking about your next career step. It can be in many aspects, starting from, as I mentioned, type of technologies, type of companies, relocation, compensation, everything that you want to explore. We help you to understand your real demand and what type of things that you can ask, and there is a good chance that someone can offer you. So once you set up your preferences, and we know everything about you, from that moment, our technology get in. And by using our very effective technology, we're going to show you only opportunities that from one hand you qualified for, and from the other end, the company can offer you exactly what you ask for. And so imagine that you're getting opportunity from Woo, and you see, hey, Microsoft want to talk with you. This is the opportunity they want to offer, and this is how it meets your preferences. So from that point, you can tell Woo that if you want to move forward, Woo basically introduce you to the company. That's where the introduction is being made. And from that point, you starting the process. So think about it. It's a very easy way where you can keep doing what you're doing. And there is an agent that 24/7 try to find the best opportunities for you that you qualified for. And for every opportunity that you want to move forward, there is a true chance that the other side want to move forward as well. 1 out of 2 of those introduction that we're making, thanks to the technology and its accuracy, are starting basically interviewing. So today we have tens of thousands. Basically, we crossed the 50,000 software engineers using us in San Francisco, New York, discreetly, and they're getting opportunities from companies on the other side. And we are proud about it that almost 80% of the people that are using Woo today are not in the market. Basically, those are the 60% of the passive job seekers that we discussed about them previously. And now they have a solution where they don't need to do anything, just wait to the right opportunity to come, and in a click of the button, they are starting a process. So that's from the candidate side. On the company side, basically what we offer them is access to a pool of talents that are not in the market. And again, because of our technology, because we are doing the matches, we're not giving the company a list of candidates because it's discrete platform. So it means that once the employers put all the information regarding what type of candidates they're looking for, this is where the technology get in, and we decide who are the candidates that we want to approach, who are the qualified candidates that we want to approach with the opportunity. So from employer perspective, it's the most efficient tool today, because every candidate they're getting introduced to through Woo is basically a qualified candidate that already expressed interest in the opportunity. So from that point, the time to start a process is very, very quick. Unlike in LinkedIn, for example, where you can see qualified candidates, but you know that you don't know if they're going to be interested or not. So you need to invest your time and approach them and make them, become interested. So this is Woo. In the middle, as you correctly mentioned, we have a very interesting technology that we developed in the past 2.5 years. which basically is a recruiter. Think about recruiting agency where both sides get in, right? And in the middle there is manual workforce where they doing the matches and trying to understand what are the best matches. So we replace those human workforce with a machine. They're doing this exact matching, high quality matching, but without any human intervention. And we find out that, this machine is much efficient than any human recruiter because the number of data that this machine can digest when it try to understand what is a quality match or not is, much larger than any human being can digest.
Wow, that's impressive. So, going back to the 27 hours you're talking about and all that, that means there's a huge ROI in terms of time saved.
Exactly. So there, from companies, there are two huge ROI. One is, as you correctly mentioned, the time that they need to spend on our system is very low because 50% are moving on. And the second thing is the quality of candidates, because the candidates that are using our platform are candidates that would never use, for example, job board or will never use recruiting agency. Think about a software engineer from Google, right? They are not if they're going to think about their next job, most of the chances they're not going to go to job boards and apply and do whatever. They waiting for someone interesting to find them. This is the concept. So we managed to bring high quality people into that platform that hard to be found in other channels that exist today. So it's quality and time saving.
Okay. I think you explained the value for both the hiring managers and companies very well. You mentioned that right now you have 50,000 engineers. So is your platform dedicated only to software engineers in San Francisco, New York, or what does the future look like for Woo?
So our platform is basically for everyone. It's not just for software engineers. The thing is that, as a startup, you need to start from somewhere because you have to make sure that you bring in talent, but on the other side, you need to make sure that you bring in companies with opportunities that can be relevant for them. So we decided that we're going to start with software engineers, and then we're going to keep expanding it. In the next 2 quarters, we're going to open the marketplace also for marketeers and salespeople. But eventually, in a year from now, we want to open the marketplace for basically every profession out there. It's just a matter of time, and we need to make sure that we're building it right.
That sounds fantastic. So thanks we are getting very close towards the end of our show here. Thanks for not only talking about Woo, but also the challenges people face and how you help them. Before we wrap up, Liran, any last words for the audience?
Well, I think I asked you what type of people are listening to this great podcast, and you said that in many cases, people that, are in their career and, listening to learn more about how to develop your career. And I think for me, this is one of the most important things that I want to share is that in some cases, I see a lot of people that are not managing the career in the right way. And I think this is a big mistake. I think you need to understand when you're thinking about your career, you always need to understand where you want to go, and you need to understand how you get there, right? Because if I want to be a VP R&D one day, I need to understand in what path should I go, and to make sure that I'm going through that path and I'm switching jobs in a way that will eventually get me there in a decent time and not after, 30, 40 years. So I think that every one of us should use not just Woo. Woo is a good example, but there are so many tools out there that let you understand your market ecosystem and understand, how the career path is going and what is your market value and what is your opportunities. And you always need to think about your next step. Otherwise, you can find yourself in the same job for 10 years and, you look around you and you see other people that were in the same level like you, but took some more proactively steps and get themselves getting promoted and towards what they want to accomplish. So this is why we build Woo, and this is why I'm telling everyone, never be comfortably numb. Always take control about your career, know your demand, and make sure that you're doing the right steps towards what you want to accomplish.
Thank you very much. That's an amazing wrap up. Thank you once again for joining our show and sharing your insights. On behalf of the audience, I wanted to thank you.
Sure. And thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure to speak with you.
Thanks everyone for listening to yet another episode of the Career Metis podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode and also took away some insights to apply to your career. I have written a brief summary of the interview with links to Woo and also more information about the company as well. If you enjoyed this episode and also learned something new, feel free to post a comment or review. And if you really, really loved it, definitely go ahead and share this amongst your network. Until next time, this is Nisar Ahmed, your host for the Career Metis podcast. Thank you.